The story begins. 15 years ago, my dad ventured into the dense woods of Xiluan Mountain. He was accompanied by an unexpected guest, a tiny stray puppy, barely a month old. As he climbed higher, he encountered an enigmatic figure living in the forested solitude. This stranger, the puppy's owner, remarked on the canine's fondness for my dad. "Why not take it home?" he suggested with a mysterious smile. Thus, the little pup became part of our family. We initially named him Xiluan, but it soon sounded eerily similar to the Taiwanese word for heartbreak. So, we affectionately renamed him Xiaohuang. In my primary school years, from grades 3 to 6, our family often embarked on mountain hikes, Xiaohuang included. The trails we chose were steep and challenging, the thin air sometimes leaving me breathless. I would invariably lag behind, but Xiaohuang, with boundless energy, would dart ahead and then back again. It was as if he was checking to make sure I hadn't fallen too far behind. On one such hike, we decided to summit Junta Mountain, spending the night in a quaint cabin nestled amidst the trees. The cabin bore a legacy, once a resting place for workers who strung electric lines across the rugged terrain. We washed in the crisp mountain spring, savoring a simple dinner of hot pot with canned beef and my childhood favorite, mama noodles. The mountain air, fresh and invigorating, was soon thick with the aroma of our meal, a rustic feast I would never forget. After dinner, fatigue set in, and I watched the adults play cards until I drifted into slumber. Sometime in the night, a piercing bird call jolted me awake, its sound foreign and unsettling. The room was oppressively dark, the moonlight unable to pierce the heavy wooden walls. Only a sliver of light crept under the door, flickering like a faint heartbeat. I strained my eyes in the blackness, trying to discern who lay beside me. The silhouette was unrecognizable, merely a breathing shadow. I hesitated to disturb them, unsure if it was one of my dad's friends who shared the room. Fear gnawed at me as I tried to map out the room's layout, the unfamiliarity stoking my anxiety. Sitting up, I scanned the room, forcing my eyes to adjust to the darkness. My father's figure was discernible in the corner, his rhythmic snores offering a modicum of comfort. But the doorway drew my attention, a focal point I couldn't ignore. I began counting the room's occupants, trying to distract myself. Yet the sight beyond the doorframe arrested my attention. 4 figures stood there, 2 adults and 2 children, their outlines trembling with an otherworldly motion. I turned away, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light, but the rustling sound of limbs thrashing grew louder. Panic clawed at my throat, the cacophony of movement echoing in the silence. Xiaohuang's barking shattered the tension, his bark relentless and urgent. The room's light flickered on, and I sprang to my feet, heart pounding. The figures were gone, the room's mundane reality reasserting itself. Outside, I found solace beside Xiaohuang, his presence a calming anchor. Never before had I been so grateful for his protective bark. My father awoke to my tale of the shadowy intruders, but his response was dismissive. "Nonsense," he chuckled, urging me back to sleep. Yet, sleep brought no respite, my dreams haunted by the specters. In the dream, they stood at the cabin's threshold, faces sewn shut, a macabre tableau. I awoke in a cold sweat, shaking off the nightmare's hold. Morning arrived, and we resumed our ascent, the night's terror a silent companion. As we trekked, a rustle in the underbrush caught my attention, revealing a coiled serpent. Its form was unfamiliar, the snake rising to face me, mouth open in a silent hiss. Mesmerized, I called out, "A snake!" But my cry went unanswered, my family's presence vanished. I spun around, confusion mounting as the path lay deserted. Panic set in, and I ran, hoping to catch up to them, but the trail remained empty. I returned to the spot where the snake had been, waiting for someone to find me. After what felt like an eternity, footsteps approached, and 4 hikers emerged, a family like specters from a dream. Relief washed over me until they veered off the path into the forest. "Follow us," the father commanded, his voice devoid of warmth. I followed, the path twisting through dense foliage, their movements unnaturally fluid. The mother's sharp sighs and the children's eerie murmurs filled the air, a dissonant chorus. Something was terribly wrong. Their steps were too light, too rehearsed. The father's shoulders were unnaturally high, a bizarre posture he maintained without pause. Fear gripped me as I trailed behind them, my heart a drum in my chest. I called out, "Excuse me, can you take me back to the path?" They halted but did not turn, their silence chilling. The mother's disapproving clicks echoed, the father's shoulders jerking higher. Then, abruptly, they resumed their march, leaving me torn between terror and isolation. A rustle behind me, and Xiluan appeared, a beacon of safety. His barks shattered the spell, and I followed him away, the spectral family fading into the trees. We emerged back onto the familiar trail, just as my family returned, oblivious to my harrowing encounter. "Thought you were ahead," my dad's friend remarked, his tone light. I recounted my experience, the snake, the strangers, but they dismissed it as child's imagination. "You weren't bitten, were you?" my mom asked, her concern practical. My dad's response was a teasing, "Just pee on it if you were." As we descended the mountain, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching us. On the drive home, my dad mentioned the registration at the mountain's base. That week, it seemed, only our family had ventured up the trail. The realization sent a chill down my spine. Who were the people I saw if not fellow hikers? The question lingered, unanswered, as the mountain receded into the distance. The memory of that night and the strange family haunted me for years to come. Perhaps some mysteries are best left unsolved, whispers of the unknown that brush against our lives. The story ends. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Macabre for more twisted tales that keep the darkness alive.